Hello, people of the internet. Luke Cobalt here, jamming out Jimi Hendrix #1 hits. I'm just joking on that. Anyways, what's big in the world today? It's ISIS and terrorism and refugees. It's kind of funny how we don't really think about Al Qaeda anymore. But anyways, so we think of these refugees as some people that look at it and say, hey, it's not a big deal. They come in here and assume American culture. They can live here, it's not a big deal. They're trying to run away from a war. And that's one school of thought. The other school of thought is terrorists. These are Muslim terrorists trying to hang out with us. Can't let them over here. Not today, not tomorrow, not next Sunday. So I was thinking about this, and a lot of people have everybody's an expert on this, and so I'm gonna claim to be an expert too. Hey, if everybody else is doing it, might as well. So they say, hey, look at these refugees that did this terrorist attacks in Paris. Refugees? Now, the head of the EU is claiming that none of these were refugees, that they're both Belgian and French citizens. Now, Prime Minister of France is claiming that these were refugees. And you look at this, and France is kind of like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this happened to us. And you wonder why. And it's kind of about the way that they conduct terrorist operations and intelligence operations compared to how the Americans do it and certain other Western powers. So how the French do it is they'll know that they got terrorist cells in their country. They know they got ISIS, they'll know they have Al Qaeda or whatever. And then they'll just observe them. They'll keep on watching them and see what they do, see who their known associates are, how they move money, how they make planning, who's the hierarchy, and how's it structured. So that's one way of doing it. You learn a lot from it because you can get tons of information, and when you build a targeting packet, you can really fill it with back. Now, how the Western school of thought does it, or Americans do it, and certain other world powers, is that once we develop enough intelligence on people that make them terrorists, we go get them. Bam, bam. Whether it be through direct action, or whether it just be, killing them, or just detaining them, getting questioned. Because a dead terrorist doesn't give you no information about more. Because a lot of these guys are just foot soldiers. So you gotta find out who's actually planning the thing. Because you can fill foot soldiers in all day long. But you can't fill in hierarchy, leadership in all day long. That's kind of like once every 5-10 years kind of thing. So, the French want to claim that these were refugees because it kind of covers up the lapse of them actually targeting these guys. They knew who was bad, and they knew what they were doing, and they knew they were going to be up to something. But they just kind of set on it. They kept on waiting, saying, we need to get more information, get more information. And the reason why they don't kind of, not as hard on terrorism or Muslim extremists in France as they are here in the United States is because they have a larger Muslim population compared to the French population that's non-Muslim. So if they're always going after people that have terrorist ties or possible terrorist sympathies or terrorist ideas of extremism, then they'll be harassing a lot of people. Now, in the United States, we don't really have that high volume of Muslim population compared to the local population, compared to Christians or whatever other religion. So we kind of view it as, all right, you're bad, we're going to go get you and we're going to question you, figure it out. We've got to have enough information though. So when the French claim these guys just skip across the border through all these different countries to get there and then jump out of some cars, do some shooting and some suicide vests, it's kind of a lame idea. Because it's saying that they don't have no forethought, that they don't have no planning, that they have no capability of doing a great operation through strategic planning. And strategic planning takes time. It's like how the government works or how the military works. We kind of take time before we do something because we've got to make a plan. And they do the same thing. So these people were in France and in Belgium and the EU countries planning this thing for probably a good amount of time. And if you're like, well, I don't know about that, man. Come on now, if they knew that they're bad, they're trying to do something. Well, you got to understand how the French do intelligence. Another thing is, why is it right after the terrorist attacks, which they didn't know how they're communicating, or they didn't know anything of their communications, that they go there, kill them, And then all of a sudden they just go after the hierarchy structure. They all of a sudden assume like, well, we know everybody is bad now because this guy that doesn't have no ID on his dead body links him to this guy. Because they already know the hierarchy, they already know the structure, they already know the foot soldiers. They just were slow on reacting. That they didn't pull the trigger fast enough to go get these guys before they actually did the thing. So here in the United States, we've had, September 11, 2001, and that's a huge terrorist attack. But people understand that since 2001, we have stopped 11 major terrorist attacks in the United States. And when people say, what about the Fort Hood shooting or the stabbing in Moore, Oklahoma? And these are all ISIS related or Al Qaeda related. And just because some guy goes wacko, he goes does something stupid because he has some extremist ideas and says, I'm doing this for Al Qaeda, doesn't mean he's really Al Qaeda. That's like saying I'm a 49ers fan, so me going in the backyard and throwing a touchdown to my dog is going to help them out. I'm a 49ers fan. I'm a fanatic about it. But that really, the 49ers wouldn't claim me. They're not going to pick me up on waivers and say, hey, saw that touchdown you threw to Boots. Good job. You want to place Kaepernick? They're not going to do that. So it's the same thing with them. Just because you claim to do something and you claim to do it and you're like, oh, I'm jihadist, I'm Afghan, freaking Al-Qaeda, doesn't really make you Afghan Al-Qaeda. So the key thing is we're drawing these lines in the sand and we're saying it's Muslims versus Christians, Christians versus Muslims. We got to limit them coming over here, because if they do, more Muslims will get over here, and more time like we're gonna have thing going off in Paris. So the problem is, even if these refugees were the cause of the terrorist attacks in Paris, France, and throughout anywhere in Europe, they didn't screen anybody. They just let them come on over. So, hey, Osama bin Laden, if he was still alive, could have just came on over with them, and who cares? It's a tall Arab. The United States would do a better job of screening, and they're already shown that they would do a better job of screening. And the House and the Senate has already passed laws that would cause oversight of screening. So that kind of takes it out of the equation right there. And two, when you say it's Muslims versus Christians, you don't understand that most Muslims that are extremists, most of the 85% of their targets are other Muslims. They're not Christians. Yeah, Christians, when they do, make the news a lot because we're technically a Christian nation, and yeah, we can argue that all day long, but whatever. And so they just view us, extremists view us as a Christian nation, so if they view us as that, well, whatever, I'm just going to say we are. So how the West does it is that we develop intelligence. Once when we got enough to make an arrest, we go make the arrest, and then we interrogate them. Now, we don't interrogate through Guantanamo Bay because it's kind of, everybody's against it nowadays. So we kind of move people to other spots in the world that are black locations that are funded through weird money that's not really appropriated through the budget. It's kind of weird. That's a different story on its own. It's kind of weird. So we do a better job because we're more proactive. And a lot of people got to understand that just because somebody's a Muslim doesn't make him a terrorist. It's just that, but then you can have the argument, well, pretty much all the people that do major extremist terrorism are Muslims. And that's true. But just think of Timothy McVeigh. He wasn't Muslim. He claimed to be Christian. And so does the Branch Davidian compound, So it's like, alright. So, back then, should we just said all Christians are terrorists? No, because we said they're lone actors. That's true. So, when we make this line in the sand, we saying this is your land, this is my land, you don't come over here, I don't come over there, bam, bam. And eventually one person on the other side says, why should we let them have that over there? Why don't we just go take it? And that's when you develop more extremist ideas. But when you realize that it's Western school of thought versus Muslim extremism, you start to see, hey, now we got to start evaluating. Because if you say everybody's Muslim is a terrorist, and then it makes the job really easy. You just come out there and say, oh, you all Muslims, get rid of them, bam. That's kind of dumb. Because then you're bigotry, and that's pretty much the definition of them, because one is all kind of thing. and then you're taking away the responsibility of the intelligence community and law enforcement to do their job, to find out who's bad and who's good. It's not like, hey, sometimes you can watch a football game and a couple of players get in fights. They pull the flag on those players. They don't say, this team over here did this. So they're all disqualified, when only 2 of them did. They disqualified those 2. So we don't like to be judged by the actions of few if they represent some barely particle of our idea. So why do we push it on to other people? Now, I'm not a Muslim lover, and I'm a Christian, but you got to understand that terrorism is more complex than Muslims versus Christians. It's this idealism of extremism versus the Western school of thought. And once you start understanding that and start looking on both sides and evaluating all the reports that you read, because if you just say, hey, I'm a God-fearing Republican, and that's all I'm going to do, is anything that's conservative and pushes my agenda, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to put on Facebook. And anything that's on the other side, I'm going to go against. That's kind of a dumb idea. Because you got to weigh both sides. Because Republicans have people and ideas that are bad. So do the Democrats. And so do Muslims, and so do Christians. So you got to be more of an educated person. That's a lot to say. Anyways, thanks for watching.